Hi everyone, Anna here, and thanks for tuning in to Watercolor Wednesday. I'm super excited to add this to our rotation of virtual classes during this time. If you're here, I think it tells me I've got 2 people watching. Hopefully people are tuning in since I just launched this. If you're here and watching, as always, write a little comment to let me know that you're here and what you're looking forward to, where you're from. I know a lot of you are pretty local to the Santa Cruz area. So, in the meantime, I will talk a little bit about myself to give people some time to tune in and find the video. So, in case you haven't met me, I think most of you probably know me already after all the classes I've been doing. But my name is Anna, and I'm an artist based in Santa Cruz, California, and I create paintings of the marine life and ocean-inspired things. And I've been doing it for about 6 years now, and teaching for about 2 years. I do a lot of wine and paint nights and other workshops, and it's a lot of fun. And I show at art festivals most of the summer, as well as some local galleries. People walking in the neighborhood, can see them. All right. If you're just tuning in, remember to write a little comment and say hello. I see Alexandria is here, and Isabel is on time and excited. Good job. And Sue is here. Awesome. Now I'll go over my supplies just so you know what I'm working with, and hopefully you have everything set up already. Pretty simple. You're going to need some watercolor paper, so I have this little scrap sheet of paper that I found. And you're going to need, for the sketching part, a pencil, just any regular pencil will work. And kneaded erasers are the best. They're these little things that you can mold around. And that'll help us erase our lines that we draw so they don't show up in the finished illustration. And then you need some brushes. So my go-to brush is a size 6 round brush. And it's really versatile because if you have a really good one, you can get really fine lines with it, and you can also get thicker lines. So it's a nice versatile brush. You can do a lot with it. And then I have a finer brush. This is a size 0 little round brush. And that's good for details in small areas, depending on how big your illustration is. Mine is going to be a pretty small, like a 5 by 8, something like that. And then if you have it available, I also like to use a pen for the details, like especially around the eye. We can do a little outline on it. So I like to use these Micron ink pens, but also you can get away with any like ink ballpoint pen, anything like that. And then watercolor paints. I know most people have like the little palettes of paint with the trays with all the colors. I'm working with tube watercolors. Casey, if you're watching, I should be sending you commissions because she gave me these paints for Christmas a while ago, and I'm still using them. I have yellow, orange, red, and violet. So just those 4 colors we'll be working with and creating some cool blends. And you should have a palette for mixing, whether you have the tube paints or the palette paints. So you should have a little palette to do your different mixes and water it down. And then a water cup for rinsing your brush, and a paper towel or something to dab it dry. And I think that's everything. So let me go through the comments and see who's here. Layla and Alexandria, awesome, very excited. Cassandra says hello. Tracy Lynn is also excited. Barbara's liking the water class. I'm excited to do this. I don't think I've ever taught watercolors before, but I'm excited to do it. And Haley, hello again with your mom. Hooray. Okay, so I think we've probably got everybody here that's going to be watching, so let me switch to my overhead view. I don't know if I'll be able to see the comments as well as I go, so hang in there. If you have any issues, I'll try to check them if I can. Liz walking, hi. Okay, here we go. Her tabletop view. Is that upside down? I think it's probably upside down for you guys. Let's try that. Okay, it says I can't turn it while recording. Let me see if it'll work this way. Sorry, guys. A little switcheroo. Okay, so yeah, there's our little sample. I guess I'll just shimmy over. Get my stuff out of the way. Okay, so you can see my little palette here for the mixing. And we got our paints and our tools. Okay, yeah, I set this up one way and then it turns out I wasn't able to flip the camera. Otherwise you guys would be watching it upside down. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of how I set up my palette, and it's kind of like personal to every artist. So I have like some blues here, greens, purpley, pinks, and then my reds in this area. So in this little box I have my red and purple, and then a separate tray I have the yellow and orange. So that's just how I set it up. Let's see, maybe I can leave this here for reference. Okay, and we're going to begin with a sketch. So you can grab your pencil. We're going to break the seahorse down into basic shapes. So for the body, it's just a simple oval here, and then we'll make a circle for the head and then do all the connecting parts. I don't know if you guys will be able to see my pencil strokes because I'm doing them very lightly, just as a guideline. Let's see, I think you can kind of see it. Let me know. I can see the comments, by the way, so if you guys have any questions, let me know. So we start with an oval for the body, and then we're going to make a circle for the head, and let's figure out the placement here. So it's a little bit off to the side. So if we have the center line of the body, the head is kind of off to the side of the center line. So keep that in mind. Maybe we can draw like a little center line just as a line for ourselves. And then can draw a smaller circle for the head here. You can use your eraser to touch up the lines. Maybe the shape's not perfect right away. So you can just kind of clean it up. That's why you want to go very lightly at first. So if you have to erase anything and refine the shapes, it's easier to do that. Okay, so very simple oval and a circle, and then we'll make our connecting lines. So from the head, this kind of, actually I think I made it a little too far out. Or maybe my oval is too wide. I'll thin it down a little. Yeah, and the back is straighter than the belly here, so maybe you can flatten that back side of your circle out. Okay. And then going straight down from the back, we can sketch in the tail, which we'll just make a little swirl down here. So it's kind of symmetrical to the head, these curves. The curve of the neck to the head and then the curve of the tail swirling around. They're pretty similar. And then you can get the front line here and curve that in. So yeah, still just going very lightly, and you can adjust as you go. Okay. A little zoom in on my drawing. Ooh, there you are. So can you guys see that? Take your time copying it. Very simple shapes. You can always like hold it back away from you, hold it upside down, make sure it's all proportional, but of course it doesn't have to be perfect. The proportions can be a little off, it'll be okay. Okay, And then they have their little snout that comes out here. So we can add that in. It's kind of like a rectangle shape coming off of, it's like angling down somewhat from the head. And then we can sketch in where the eye is going to be, which is very close to the base of his snout here. Kind of on the smallish side. And then we've got a little fin back here. So it's kind of a very organic shape, kind of like a rounded rectangle, and it can have some little divots like a butterfly wing almost. Okay, and then I'm going to go in with my eraser and take out the excess lines. So like the connecting lines of the oval here that we're not going to need. We can clean up the neck a little bit and that line with the snout. So that'll be our next step. If you have any like really thick lines from going over them a bunch of times, you can kind of thin them down too. And the idea is we don't really want any of these pencil strokes to show when we're finished. So that's why I really stress the importance of keeping your pencil strokes very light, so you can erase them easily. Okay, and then we can do the grid lines of the body here. So basically it's broken up into 2 vertical lines, and then you're making squares with horizontal lines. So the first line, I'll start from the base of the neck here, and then kind of follow the curve of the belly a little bit, but it's definitely going to be less curved than that very front line. Just a very slight curve so it has some dimension still. And then I can make a little line for the cheek here. It'll come out. And they kind of have little spikes on their heads. We'll zoom in on that for you guys. A little spiky crown. Okay, so now that's defined where the head is. We're going to make another line starting from the back of the head here and the neck. And then going down to the base of the tail, wherever it ends up. That's fine. And the tail should not have any lines in it, so it should kind of connect to the back. And these 3 sections, they should be pretty equal. Again, they don't have to be perfect, but like pretty similar in size. And you can use your eraser to adjust if you need to. And then we're going to make our horizontal lines. So the ones on the body, they're going to be pretty flat, pretty horizontal. And then in the neck, we're going to angle up a little bit following that curve. So this line's kind of angled here, and then that one's a little bit slightly less angled, and then they're pretty flat here. Okay, and I am going to divide the tail into segments as well. So you can follow the curve angling just to get the cross section of the tail going around in the spiral. Okay, and that'll be our sketch. Super simple. Hope you guys got that down. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase my lines. I'm just going to skim very softly over these lines with the eraser so that I can just barely see them enough to do my painting within the lines, but not so much that it'll show up in the painting. So that's how I did this one. And you probably can't see the pencil lines, but they're there, just ever so subtle. Okay, yeah, so just make sure you can still kind of see them for your painting. Don't erase them completely. can do that just by skimming over really lightly with the eraser. I'm gonna stretch my eraser as I go to get clean sections. Okay, any new comments, questions so far? Okay, so once you've got your sketch and it's really faint, I'll give you guys a close-up to see how faint my lines are. We have our guideline. We are ready to go. So I'm gonna grab my, what was this, the number 6 round brush. And I'm just gonna begin by filling in the little squares of the body. And each one is a little bit different. So some of them I did with like a drop of yellow and orange, some were more red, some are a little bit purpley. And that's kind of what gives this illustration that fun, whimsical feel, is having all that variation and bright colors kind of blending together. So I will leave this, I'll shimmy over a little bit first, and then I'll leave this here so we can see it for reference. Okay, so I'm gonna dip my brush in the water and activate the paint by putting some water on it. And I'm just gonna go ahead and start with an orange. Doesn't matter which color you start with. And this is gonna be kind of like a wet on wet technique, so once you have your first square picked out, you can kind of go in very carefully and fill in that square with the color. And you can start with like a pretty diluted version of the color and then brighten it up as you go. And then if you want to drop in another color, like I might add some yellow to this just to create some blending within that shape. So I'll get a little yellow and then just plop it on, little dots, and it'll blend. Rinsing my brush in between colors. And then maybe I'll get another little drop of orange and put that in. And then just leave it like that to sit and rest. And then we'll move on to our next square and just go along. I'm just going to work my way up from the body. And I'm leaving a space, a little line of white space between the squares. So that's how our shapes are going to be staying isolated. And if they do accidentally connect a little bit and seep into each other, that's okay too. It'll add character. Okay, and then I do like to keep the belly a little bit more yellow and then do the darker colors towards the back because that's kind of how they are in nature. You can also improvise with other colors if you want to make like a blue or green seahorse. So thinking about ways I can make each little square different from the squares next to it, I think this one I'll keep a little bit more yellow and maybe even drop just some plain water in it to just get some like flow going through it. And then maybe this next one I'll go back into some orange. Just very carefully painting these squares, leaving that light white space in between each box. Maybe this one I'll just add in a touch of this red. Mix it in a little. It's so interesting how each color reacts differently in water. Like this bright crimson, it just kind of sits where you put it, and then other colors will seep and flow more smoothly. One of the cool meditative qualities of watercolors, I think. Put a lot of orange in there. And then if you want to go back into any of these squares and drop in any other colors while they're still wet, you can do that. So maybe you want to balance it out with some more orange down here, or maybe even add in a drop of red somewhere. You can do that. One more little triangle here. And then I am kind of deliberate about how I'm moving with these squares. So to keep this line, the vertical line, consistent, I'm just doing this whole front belly row first. And then I'll do this whole row and then do the whole back. And that'll just keep it from the line, the white line of the page, from like shifting around randomly. Okay, and then I have one more down here for the belly. Simple. Okay, then we can go into our next row. Yeah, and I'm kind of assuming you guys have the basics of watercolors down, so basically the amount of water you're adding to your colors will affect how light or saturated it is. So the less water you use, the brighter and more intense the color will be. And if you use more water, you'll get a more like pastel, soft, light color. Let's see, maybe it's time for a red one in here. Spice it up a little bit. Yeah, and sometimes depending on the color, because this red is really saturated, I'm just going to paint half of the little square in for now. Rinse my brush, and to get some blending going in there, I'll switch to some orange and then paint in the rest of it, so it's not, well, it all kind of overtook anyway. You never know with these things. Some more red in this one. A little red and yellow. You can try different combinations as you go. Maybe do some like yellow with just water, orange and yellow, orange and red, yellow and red. Just make each little box different from the one that's next to it. Then red and purple is a good combo to really add in some variation. But you probably don't want to do purple and yellow because they are opposite on the color wheel, and when you mix those together you get brown. Which is okay, I mean, seahorses are brown sometimes too. Let me know if you guys have any questions so far or want me to go over anything again. you get up into the neck, just be pretty thoughtful about the shapes you have down here, especially if you can't see the lines very well. Yeah, just try to remember where the head ends and how the curves of the line go. Remember to look at the painting as a whole instead of like just the shape you're working on right now. So you want to refer to that as you go. Okay. Now on my last row here. And these back shapes are kind of fun. They have a little point at the end. So I'll give you guys a close-up of my sample here. So yeah, see how the boxes, they kind of curve out a little bit and they have those little spikes on their back. You can add those in to your shapes. I'm so grateful for these little classes with you guys. It's nice to have this, just like the motivation to be creative, because I've been finding it kind of hard to work on my own projects lately. I think the reason is I'm doing my little book I've been talking about. Maybe you guys have seen some of the pictures. And I've been stuck on the letter I forever. The one I'm planning to do for I, the sea creature, because I haven't found a lot of sea creatures that start with I, but it's isopod, and that's kind of like a hard illustration to come up with. But last night I was watching videos, trying to come up with a sketch, watching videos of the giant ocean isopods, which get to be like a foot long, and they're like these ginormous roly-polies. So that was kind of cool and gave me a little bit of inspiration. Hopefully I'll get to work on that soon. If anyone has any other suggestions of sea creatures that start with I, maybe I'll be more motivated with a different subject. Let me know. Yeah, you might find your paper buckling a little bit. I think the paper I'm using, it's not the best quality, so it is like really warped right now, so the color starts to sink to one side. And that's not a big issue, it's kind of cool. It creates other variations. It just might be something that happens. One's looking a little funny. Swirl it around. dark purple one. Mix it up even more. I also want to give a huge thank you to everyone who's been supporting these classes by watching, by sharing, inviting your friends, your roommates, and giving donations too. That's really what's keeping me going with these classes and allowing me to be able to continue offering them. So thank you, thank you. And if you would like to contribute anything for the class, there's information in the event page, and I'll post a little comment on the video and in the event when it's done on how to do that. And otherwise, just keep sharing and telling your friends about these. They're going on every week, so we've got Watercolor Wednesdays and the Paint Night Fridays. Lots of opportunities to get creative. And then I also just scheduled another class, so if you're wanting to dive deeper into acrylic painting and learn more about the techniques, the materials, and sketching, color mixing, stuff like that, I'm going to be hosting a 3-week virtual class. It'll be done over Zoom, so we still have that personal connection, but we're safe at home and all. But yeah, I'm excited to offer that because I've had this idea for years now to do like a series class like that, but just never had the time to organize it, and right now seemed like a good time to put it together. Just all the class content I have, like in these quick demos, you get like just a scratch of the techniques that I use. But it's exciting to be able to combine it all into one class. So there's information on that on my Facebook page if you would like to check it out. Okay, so now I'm going down into the tail here. Still trying to keep each segment a little bit different from the one next to it. And go as far as you can with these segments. At the very end, it's just going to be one shape for the last curl, so however much control you have with your brush, just go until it gets really hard to do. The last little shape. When you get tired of making those segments in the tail, you can just make a little swirl at the end to complete it. Drop some other colors in there. Okay, and now we can paint in the head, whatever other little shapes you missed. Okay, I think the head I'm gonna go with a reddish color, like a reddish orange. And we're gonna leave the eye white for now. When we meet with the neck here, I'm gonna maintain that white space in between the shapes. Can add in those little spikes on the back. And then once you have that shape wet, you can drop in more colors to increase the vibrancy. This is my favorite technique to work with, is just getting a shape wet first and then just plopping colors down into it, because you get such cool organic blends going in there. So interesting to watch the paint flow. I'm doing a mix of red and orange for this one. Maybe I'll drop in a tiny bit of purple into the red spots here, maybe at the cheek to create a little shadow. And then I'll let that dry, fill in my last shapes. So, got the body painted in, and now we can move on to that little fin in the back. We'll go with the yellowy orange to contrast with those darker squares that are already there. And same thing, I'm just keeping that white space, trying not to meet with the shapes that are painted on there already. Then you can add more color if you need it. Swirl it around. And this whole thing so far I've done it with just a lot of water. Letting the colors flow and blend naturally. Okay, and at this point, you're gonna want to give it some time to dry out. Maybe you have a hair dryer or a heat gun handy. In that case, you can speed up the process a little bit. But the last part that's left is just going to be the eye here. And here's a little close-up of how, where's the camera? How I did the eye. So it was just, I painted it in with yellow and then used my ink pen to outline it. But yeah, the rest of the body we've got pretty much completed. So let me try to dry it out with my heat gun a little bit. Yeah, at least the part around the eye. Yeah, if you are not patient and don't let the paint dry completely, then when you go in to paint the eye, you might get some bleeding. I think actually in this sample there was just a very subtle amount of bleeding. You can see the that little bloom of yellow under the eye, but you can fix that up with the ink pen anyway, so not a big deal. But that's what happens. That helped a lot. It's also nice that it's a warm day today. And also another option, if you wanted to go over any of the squares again, you can. You yeah, in case you wanted to like brighten up the colors, sometimes when they dry, they are more faint than they were when you put it down. But if you're happy with it, then you can just leave it with that one layer. The watercolors are transparent, so if you do a second layer, the color that's underneath will show through. Okay, let me just check the dryness. I think that's pretty good, so I'm gonna just get a little bit of yellow here and fill in the eye. And then that's gonna need to dry, so we can hang out a little bit again. I just posted a new blog post on my website. Not sure if you guys saw the link, but it's on my Facebook page. But yeah, basically I talk about how my life has changed since sheltering in place, what's different. So if you guys need some reading material, you can go check it out. It's on my website, followthesunart.com. And I'll also use this moment to tell you guys about my Patreon, which a lot of you guys have joined me on already, and I super appreciate it. But yeah, there's different tiers on my Patreon. It's a way to support the art that you love on a monthly basis. So it starts at $3, and with that you get a discount to use in my shop anytime, and also digital downloads every month. So far I've had a phone wallpaper, which I'll show you. It's on my phone. Oops, maybe not, but yeah, a little Tide Pools phone wallpaper. So there was that, and then this month they offered a coloring page to pass some time as well. There's also a goodie box option, so you'll get a surprise package from me every month with some art goods. And yeah, there's some other options. Oh, the Paint Along Club, if you want an additional painting class every month, you can join the Paint Along Club, and that's at $10. So there's some cool options on there, and it's awesome because it allows me to keep doing this and providing better artwork, and yeah, just make more of a difference with the art that I produce. So if you're interested, you can go check that out. I'll post links to all of that if you want to know more. Let me try to dry up my eye here. Yes, the heat guns are very handy for those of us who are impatient. Okay, so let's see, got my yellow eye there. Just make sure it's really dry, and I'll go in with my Micron pen. Yeah, you want to be careful when you're going in with the pen, because if the paint or paper is still wet, it can ruin your pen, especially these ink pens. Yeah, I've like messed them up before by going over white or wet paper. Excuse me. Okay, so with the eye, I'm just gonna outline that circle that I made, and then make the little center part here, the pupil, and I'm not going to fill that in completely. I'll give you guys a nice close-up of that. So see, there's a little white dot left in the eye, and that gives it that kind of like lifelike reflective quality if you don't fill it in completely. Make that a little bit larger. Okay, and then one more finishing touch. I'm going to go in with my tinier brush here. I'm just going to add some little effects to the eye. So see, I've got this like rusty brown color here. Not sure how I made that, but yeah, you just want to get like a slightly darker color, but still pretty diluted, so it's not super intense. And then we can add a little fine detail of a shadow to the eye. And then maybe some little lines up here, or spots or something, just to give it some texture. So there's a close-up of the eye. And the body is still drying out a little bit, so it'll be a few more minutes. And that's our little seahorse. So thank you guys for watching and painting along. Take your time finishing up, and have fun with this little illustration. When you're finished, as always, I would love to see a picture. So take a photo and you can send it to me on my page or in a message. Or if you're not in my Follow the Sun Art Club group yet, that's my Facebook group. So that's where I'm sharing all my classes, and you can post all your artworks in there too. It's fun to see what everyone comes up with because we're all kind of painting along. And the coolest thing about these is how everyone's turns out different, even though we're all following the same guidance and the same general inspiration. So I would love to see those. So take a picture and send them to me somehow. The Follow the Sun Art Club is the name of the group if you want to check it out. And stay tuned for the next classes. So on Friday we're going to meet again, and we're going to do the prickly pear cactus painting. And then next Watercolor Wednesday, we're going to do this galaxy down here. So a lot of fun. And then if you guys have any requests for the May paintings, let me know too. I've already got a couple of ideas from you guys, so I'm excited to keep doing them until we can meet in person again. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. And share the video with your friends, send me pictures, come on in and join me for another class soon, and have a great rest of your evening, and I will just wave goodbye. Bye everyone.